So what's up, my good people? We are back for all things NBA from A to Z. We have the Minnesota Timberwolves in the second round. We have the New York Knicks in the second round. So we had to get the one and only Alpha Dog Bets on the show. One of the biggest Knicks fans I know. What's up, Alpha? How are you?
Thanks for having me on, guys. Excited to be here. Even more excited that the Knicks had an awesome win last night. Excited to talk about you guys, and we have a lot of great games to come over. So thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. And we also have a huge Knicks fan. You guys know him, the one, the only KP, Chris Persianen. How are you doing?
What's going on, man? Yeah, I gotta say, fandom hat is in the closet until this year's over because as a reporter. But it's been a lot of fun. Last night, I wasn't covering the game, so I watched at like a bar nearby, and you would you would have thought you were in MSG or you were in Wells Fargo. Knicks are on defense. My friend was starting a defense chant, and the whole bar is screaming defense, timeouts, go New York, go New York, go. F Nick Nurse, F Embiid, like they were chanting everything. It was literally like being at the Garden, and the Knicks were on the road. They love the road. The Knicks love the road, so you knew they'd take care of business. And Brunson looking up at his Villanova championship banners after a big and one, that was cold.
Awesome. We will get into the Knicks, but I do want to introduce our awesome Zach Noble, Minnesota Timberwolves. You guys are also in the second round. Tell us how you feel.
I don't even know how to feel. This just feels so strange. It's amazing, though. I'm riding high. It's us and Knicks fans, unfamiliar with this territory, but yeah, it's gonna be lit. I'm ready for an upset.
Awesome. Yeah, let's go ahead and go back to that Knicks series. So it was a crazy game 6, y'all. Knicks came out, they crushed that first quarter. I thought it was gonna be a boat race, right, to end the game, but not only did Philly fight back, but they stormed back and got the lead by halftime. I guess I'll start with you, Chris. How do you feel the dynamics of that game going up and down, and then obviously towards the end there?
So obviously in the NBA playoffs, you're up 22 in the first quarter, you're losing at halftime. Um, that's not a recipe for victory, right? But yesterday in the Beat the Book spaces, our wonderful, wonderful sponsor, Beat the Book, they did a space about an hour giving out best bets. They tapped me in. They said, KP, what do you got? I said, I got 2 plays. One's regular, one's upside. Regular play over 201.5. It's going to be a high scoring game. In the first quarter, boded well for that, seeing the ball go through the basket a whole bunch. Dante DiVincenzo having a signature game. He had a signature moment. He had a career moment. But he had a signature game last night, and that was special. I said the over was the big play, but if you want to get risky, plus 550, Sixers first half, Knicks full game, and that prophecy came true. Actually, my buddy Steph Florival, who's with props.cash, parlayed those two. It was like plus 1100 or something. So he was like, "Yo, it was your birthday, but you handed out, you handed out a present for me." And so that to me, like, not just because I said the Sixers would be winning at halftime and the Knicks would win the game, I was not just blindly confident because of that. The thing is, and this is corny, right? But it goes back to where Josh, Dante, and Jalen came from. And Jay Wright's, biggest thing is 40 minutes of Villanova basketball might be his biggest tagline, but attitude. Attitude is his number one tagline. Here at Fordham University, the men's basketball team breaks every huddle with attitude because their head coach, their assistant, Jay Wright coaching tree. Attitude, man. You have UNC hit that huge shot on you by your attitude. And so you go out and make one right back. And that to me, I said there were a couple Fordham basketball players there at the bar I was at. I was like, yo, well, you guys know what I'm thinking right now. And they were like, I'm going to kill you. But because they get screamed attitude at them every practice. But that's what it was, though. It was those 3 Villanova guys having the attitude. And Jalen Brunson, the number one thing he'll tell you in post-game pressers, at media day, like wherever he's talking about the Knicks, he always says, we're a resilient group. and he's not like, yeah, of course he says things he doesn't mean. Like he drops 47 in a loss and he'll be like, I don't care how I did. Like that's the thing though, is no, he does mean that. Like he's crazy, right? And when he says they're a resilient group, he really means it. And that means the whole team. Anunoby is not someone who you can like rattle easily. Hartenstein was the G League Finals MVP. That guy clawed his way up from the bottom. Draft was supposed to go in the lottery or late first. Nets misdiagnosed him. He drops to 43, gets sent to the G League. Cup of coffee with the Rockets, cup of coffee with the Cavs. Clippers, builds himself up in the rotation, gets a $16 million deal with the Knicks, and then started for them pretty much both seasons of the 2-year deal because of Robinson injuries. Like every single person on the Knicks, one, had to climb and crawl to get where they are, and we're told that they wouldn't be able to, and did. Jalen's too small. Dante can't defend. Josh can't shoot. Julius can't pass. Mitch can't stay healthy. Isaiah can't play. OG 17th pick. Like he'll never develop a shot. You saw this. You saw the one dribble pull up middies. You saw his poster on Joel at the end of the game to help clinch it. Like that's one thing, right? But the other thing that every Knicks player can say is that they're a star in their role. And when you are so bought into a team construct, and you've got Tom Thibodeau at the mantle, that's how you win ball games.
Yeah, Chris, we had a bit of a sidebar, the four of us, right, in a chat here, talking about the show and prepping for the show. And one thing we talked about is the resiliency, the heart, the fight of this Knicks team, and I think it's second to none in the NBA. Alpha, how do you feel about your Knicks moving forward? I mean, that's a great series with the Sixers, but now they're going to be going up against one of the best offenses in the league.
I think the Knicks look great against the Sixers. I think it was a battle back and forth. We all know that. The issue with me with this Knicks team is going to be the depth and Tom Thibodeau's rotations. It doesn't scare me as much for the Pacers series. I'll let that out early. I do think the Knicks win this in 5 or 6 games. But when it comes to the Eastern Conference Finals, if they get that far, I feel it's going to be very difficult with the current rotations that they're going with. The Knicks are only using a current 7-man rotation. One of them is Mitchell Robinson, so we know he doesn't give you a lot on the offensive end besides rebounding and a lot of minutes per game. He's banged up pretty frequently. The other player that's coming off the bench is Miles McBride. Deuce has been unbelievable. He's another guy, as Chris was saying, someone who wasn't expected to be here out of West Virginia, came out of nowhere, has earned his roster spot, has earned his minutes, has looked great doing it. And besides that, though, those are the two really only threats they have on the bench. I'd like to see the Knicks use Precious Achiuwa a little bit more. He looked great in the game that Mitchell Robinson was out. I thought he gave us more versatility. His size is great. He can move pretty quickly. He's a good defender. But when it comes to the Eastern Conference Finals, if they get that far, I would be a little nervous, especially against a team like Boston.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, that we talk about it, man. I don't think they are underdogs by the true sense of the word. They truly believe they have a chance to win every game, even if they're down in a game, closing a fourth quarter. They really believe. Zach, before I get to you and your thoughts on the series, we do want to thank our awesome sponsors, not only Ball is Life, but our amazing sponsors here that are really the reason why we're doing this live show every single week. We have awesome guests, including the one tonight with Alpha. But thank you so much, Beat the Book. If you don't know anything about them, I'll give you this. All you have to do is download the app, send a screenshot to me, Chris, Zach, anybody. Send a screenshot that you are following all things NBA, and we'll give you some free swag. So it's very, very easy to do. Download the app, give us a follow, and send us a screenshot. All right, Zach, so what are your thoughts on Knicks, Pacers? This is kind of like 90s, right? Reggie Miller, Patrick Ewing, like that era. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, everybody says, I mean, the Pacers' pace is what's going to be the differentiator and why it might be a little challenging on the Knicks. I think they can dictate the pace at will. And I mean, Josh Hart flies all over the place. Dante, OG, all those guys can get up and down. Like, I'm not worried about the pace whatsoever. It's more so who's going to show up outside of Brunson and Siakam for me. Those guys I know, I mean, I can rely on, and it's the guys on the edges. Like the Knicks, I think every player is just getting better, as the series went on, like OG especially. I mean, we didn't see one 20-point game from him, and I think we'll get a 25 ish game from him. I think he's getting a lot more comfortable in the system as things go. And I think he's going to be a perfect matchup for Siakam, slow him down. And then Halliburton, I mean, I don't know what percentage you guys think he is, but like he is a shell of himself. And it's amazing that series was so easy for them. Even though the Pacers' depth is what's kind of kept them alive and going, I like the Knicks' depth way better. And I think these guys, I mean, energy-wise, I mean, it's the first time these Pacers players have been in the playoffs. Yes, some of these Knicks, but most of them have played in the playoffs a little bit. So I think the series is going 5 games. I'd be shocked if it goes much past that.
Zach, you touched on 2 really important things that basically the Pacers, no pun intended, they have speed, they have pace, right? And then also they have depth. And the depth for them is really important because the Knicks are so battered and bruised right now. Like everyone knows they're missing Julius Randle almost to the point where they don't get credit for it. Like we see our guy Dead Prez picks in the comments saying someone tell the Knicks they didn't win the finals. Hey, man, Josh Hart was just a number 2 offensive option on a team that beat Embiid with his best fitting co-star. Tyrese Maxey was the first Sixer with 45, 5, and 5 in a playoff game since one Allen Iverson. He's 23 years old. He was born a year and a half before me. In November 2000, he was born. That's so stupid. Like, that's like, I had him number 7 on my big board. And I remember sitting there watching the Knicks pass on him and being like, okay, well, they can try to trade into the teens and get him if he falls. And then he fell. And they did, like, I remember hearing the Knicks tried trading into the teens. It's like they didn't offer enough that someone would have given up that pick. Like Kyra Lewis Jr. was not that important to the New Orleans Pelicans. You know what I mean? Like they could have figured that out and they didn't. Of course, it all worked out. They grabbed an absolute stud Kentucky guard at 25. But when Maxey went at 21, I was like, what the hell are we doing here? You can't teach the clutch gene, right? You cannot teach that. You can't teach speed. Okay, so just because this kid isn't built like a defensive end, just because he's a little small, he has all the clay that you want to mold into a star player. And now he's 23 and playing like it. The Pacers, the whole team has speed. They play fast. Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the NBA, in my opinion, for the sole reason that he has people talking about Tyrese Halliburton like he's a top 15 player. Like I've never seen NBA Twitter full of real haters. Full of real haters on NBA Twitter. 17 games into the season, they were like, yo, what if Steph Curry was 3 inches taller? Like, is that Halliburton? Like, is that what we're dealing with here?
Wait, are you saying it's more Rick Carlisle than Halliburton?
Nembhard has 30 and 10 games. Like it's nothing when Hallie's out. Hallie's really good.
How many of those? I bet he had probably less than 3.
I think Hallie will win a ring with
Zach, you didn't know Chris's last name is Zerbiak? No, I do want to ask you made one good point. I mean, it was the one in several good points. Sorry, one in several good points. Alpha, he mentioned that the coaches, right? So we know Rick Carlisle has won an NBA title. I know it's been 13 years, but who do you give the advantage here in this series, Coach Thibs or Coach Carlisle?
It's difficult. It's difficult to me because I don't know how I feel about Coach Tibbs at the moment. One game, I think he's done the best job I've seen him do in the whole year. And then the next game, I'm questioning every single thing he's done. To me, I think Tibbs is the more X-factor coach, for sure. I think the series, he can have more of an impact on Carlisle. But, I mean, if you're going to go off history, you got to go with Carlisle over Tibbs.
Okay. Why
Zach, do you want to answer that
Why
one?
are you questioning Tibbs, man?
His rotations. Precious Achiuwa played such a good game when Mitchell Robinson was out. He was such an X factor defending multiple positions. And then he limited our bench the Knicks bench to a 7-man rotation. So to me, if you're going to play this many games, your guys don't come out, the Knicks are going to burn out, especially when you go up against a team like the Pacers that go a 9-man deep rotation. So to me, to answer this series, we're going to need to see a lot more Precious Achiuwa. I know the Knicks lost Bogdanovich. He was a huge piece off the bench. He may not have been playing great, but he did play a lot of minutes and could hit the open 3. Not sure if the Knicks have another guy who could really do that, but I do think that I question Tibbs for those reasons, especially his usage of the bench.
That
I
guy,
think they should be up a lot more in this series, so
he's
they better
addicted to
dive into that bench.
Thibodeau is addicted to rim protection. And when you can tell him you got Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein, and yeah, I know Embiid made Hartenstein look pretty silly throughout the series, but when Thibodeau has the opportunity to have 48 minutes of elite rim protection, he is going to take it. He does not care. And so that's why you saw Achua play a lot as a 4 in the regular season. So I would argue, and of course, this is because of Thibodeau, right? But I would argue Achua not playing is better than a lineup where Hart is the 3, Achua is the 4, and Robinson is the 5. Like that. That's where I'm at.
Who would you bring in though? Because the Knicks can't go 7 deep in this series. They just can't. They have to at least go 8. They need to sprinkle in 9. Who would you want to eat up minutes? I know that since Bogdanovich has gone down, who
Right.
else do the Knicks really have? Oh, don't do that.
I know.
Oh,
I
don't
know.
do that.
Listen, you want the spin? Here's the spin. He was hurt earlier in the season. He played like it. He wasn't just bad. Like I hate when people are like, oh well, they just need to like they just need to be better. Like he was definitely bad, right? But a lot of it was he wasn't creating any sort of advantages, and we know he has a deep bag. So that injury was really bothering him. And I forget what exact, I'm looking it up right now. Oh, a sprained shooting shoulder. That's why, like, dude, that's why the shots weren't falling. Like, I hit more shots, or he just needs to hit at a higher clip. Like, he just needs to, he's hitting 270. He just needs to hit better. Like, and then we'll consider him a superstar. Like, I hate that analysis. Like for me, Burks sprained shooting shoulder. You understand why even the open looks weren't falling for him. Is he a bad playmaker? Yes. Does Thibodeau task him with being a playmaker when he shouldn't, even if there are better options on the roster? Like people act like Deuce McBride wasn't on the team the whole time that Burks was starting at point guard and quickly was coming off the bench. Like, that's a separate thing, but he can bring value as a scoring in bunches guy because they lost that in Bogdanovich.
I'm with both of you guys real quick
Yeah,
here.
go ahead.
And I'm okay with either way. I think Precious needs to get dusted off a little bit because I think there's going to be spots in this series. They're going to need him for the conference finals. But my thing is play McBride more than 9 minutes. Just play them less. Like you can have that 7-man rotation. Just play Mitchell Robinson and McBride a little longer.
It's so tough with Mitch with that foot.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I know we could talk about the Knicks all like for 4 hours. I know Alpha, you just came off a 4-hour podcast. We're not going to do that to you guys. We do have to jump over to Zach's team, Minnesota. They impressively dominated the Phoenix Suns with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. I know it's been a few days now. I know it's with NBA Twitter. If it's more than 24 hours, people don't talk about it anymore. But we do know there's a lot of issues with Phoenix. With that being said, that is an impressive, very, very dominating performance by not only Anthony Edwards, because we are all believers of Ant-Man, but that entire team, defensively, clutch shooting, versatile defense. Like, I'll start with you here. They are going to be playing against the defending champs. Do they have a shot against the Nuggets?
Yes, absolutely. So last year they had a chance, and anybody you talk to, whether it's Nuggets media, Nuggets players, Timberwolves were their hardest challenge last year. And even throughout this year, I mean, just on paper, even if they didn't play each other, like it just makes the most sense with Gobert and Towns. But at the end of the day, it's letting Jokic cook. I mean, he's going to get his, you got to let him go. And I think we're going to let him do his thing. And it's holding Michael Porter Jr. below 20 points, 25 points. Jamal Murray, focusing on him a little bit, but you can't have a guy like Christian Braun going for 15 or anybody else. I mean, it's Jokic is the only guy that can really be going off in this series. Aaron Gordon can't go for 20 plus. That's how the Timberwolves are going to win this series. I lean like, if Jamal Murray was 100% and I truly believed it, I'd lean Nuggets for sure, and I'd say Nuggets in 6. But Jamal Murray didn't look great in round 1. And, I mean, he looked great in the clutch. I'm going Wolves in 6 or 7. 7 to be cautious. And I'm confident that until I see if Jamal Murray comes out and bangs a 35-piece game one, it's Nuggets all day. But until I see that, I think Jamal Murray being banged up and Mike Conley looking really good, Nikhil Alexander-Walker growing each game right now, and he's going to be all over Jamal's ass. It's going to be fun. I trust this team.
Chris, before you jump in and add those, make sure when you add the bets in the app that you make sure it's Zach's bets. All right. But so the series bet.
Hey man,
right
I was
now
number
is
one
Nuggets,
for a little bit.
I was just about to say.
Nuggets right now for the series is -205. Timberwolves are +170. He's looking at the exact outcome at 4-2, which is going to give you a really nice plus number. Do you think there's value here in the Timberwolves, Chris?
So the Timberwolves, on the series spread, +1.5 on the series spread is -135 on DK. I think probably better odds on FanDuel. But I'm just up on DK right now. Stuff like you said, series winner Timberwolves +170. That's not value to me. Like there's no value there at +170. Unless you're Zach and you swear the Wolves are winning. But
I don't swear. Don't get me wrong. I don't swear. If, like I said, if Jamal Murray comes out 30-35, I will fucking be all over the Nuggets.
Timberwolves +1.5 though intrigues me, and that's because I don't think there's a team in the Western Conference better positioned to give Denver fits than Minnesota. And for that reason, maybe you see a series where it's like the Lakers participation trophy of almost won 2 games in 2 years worth of playoff series, 1-8 against Denver over 2 years. And it's because they go up by 10, they go up by 20, they go up by 84, and the Nuggets win the game no matter what, right? Maybe you get that kind of series because Denver, I say this, they're the one team in the NBA that has the switch in their pocket and can flip it when they want and just turn on, right? But with that said, 4-3, going to 7, Nuggets taking it in 7. I think there's no way the Timberwolves would win a game 7 against Denver. Timberwolves +1.5 on the spread, -135. That's to me where like you could argue there's value, but even then, like I'd want like +120,
+1.5. Yeah, that's a good call.
All right, Alpha. So how do you see the series? And please let us know what your favorite bet is for the series.
I see it exactly like you guys do, the +1.5. I think there's not a ton of value with the way the series line is priced right now. Straight up, who's going to advance? I think you said it's -200. To me, I would think it would have to be +200 or more to be taking the Timberwolves on the series here. But I do think this is a really equal battle. When you look at the Western Conference, it was a 3-horse race. You have OKC, you have Denver, you have Minnesota. All 3 teams finished within a game of each other. They've been even teams all year. And as you guys said perfectly, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, those are the best 2 big men on one team that have a chance to slow down Jokic and this Nuggets offense. If anyone's going to do it in the West, I think the T-Wolves have the best shot. But for a little security there, I definitely think the +1.5 is a pretty good play. I would honestly take that.
Just a little mathematics for you guys here, because I am analytics capper. A nice way to kind of head that or add to those positions, instead of doing that, let's say you think it's going to be a longer series, you can look at +5.5, but that's a lot of juice. The one thing that I would look at is Nuggets 4-3 exact series. That's at +330, and you combine that with a Timberwolves money line on the series plus odds as well. If you think it's going to be a close series, one of those will hit, and you'll hit nice plus money there. So that's a little, roundabout way that you can bet that if you believe in that. So,
too, with those plays that analytic capper is giving out, you can go on the off book section of Beat the Book, upload a screenshot, say whatever your play is, even if it's not just a typical money line or spread bet. So they will still count this towards your winning totals, your social credit on the app. For us, like we still have that. I'm very proud of that 6 win streak badge that we have. Off book plays will contribute to that. And like we said too, like if you're trying to let your friends know you're taking it, but you're not putting the mortgage on it, you can choose it as a sprinkle. You can do a long shot. If you're going to parlay every series winner in round 2, you can do it as a Hail Mary, So with that said, like there's lock of the day, second most confident, sprinkle, Hail Mary. so many good features on the Beat the Book app, and I think that's part of why it's so good is because you can do those off-book posts. So thank you to Beat the Book, but honestly, whether they were sponsoring this or not, I'd be logging our plays on there.
I do spend 1 or 2 minutes with Zach here because he is there in Minneapolis. He watches Ant-Man every day. We just had Cassidy Hubbard on the podcast, a couple weeks ago, and she said this is a really important month, 2 months for Anthony Edwards, not only from a NBA postseason performance standpoint, but then he's going to go into the Olympics and play for Team USA. He can really become one of the faces, if not the face of the NBA. Zach, how do you feel about that pressure and that weight on Anthony Edwards moving forward, being so young?
Just look at him close out that game 4. I mean, that shows and says enough about who the guy is and how he's embracing this moment. But he doesn't take it lightly that Mike Conley is on his last legs and he's like, do it for me. And is all about that. And now his boy Finch, he's hobbled up and will be sitting behind the bench and he's got some extra motivation there. I think that's tough. What's up?
Nick Nurse like broke his finger on a like slamming a whiteboard or something. And so
you're comparing that to a busted knee? Come on.
I'm saying the coach injuries, like what is going on with all that? Like Nurse couldn't draw plays on the whiteboard because his finger was broken. I'm sorry.
No, I think Ant's just playing incredibly smart and two-way basketball. I think he's going to take on the Jamal Murray matchup, take it personally. It'll be interesting, though, if they have him on Jamal Murray or it's he goes up to MPJ a little bit. I can see both angles there and maybe put Jaden more on Jamal just so Ant doesn't get too tired out. But there's so much you can do with those two guys, and then even Gobert and Cat. Like I said, let Jokic do his thing. Worry about slowing down everybody else. I mean, that's the game plan here, and that's what's worked for us in the past. But Aaron Gordon looked really good at times. I think he had a 29-point game. I just really like our bench more than I ever have right now. Throughout the year, I was dogging on it. Like, I thought it was dog shit. And these guys, outside of Naz Reid, these other guys are stepping up, feeling great about that. We'll see if it carries over to round 2. But Mike Inori is going to show the world what he's made of, too. He might get some looks after this series.
Yeah, shout out to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Shout out to not only Naz Reid, but Kyle Anderson. That bench really has stepped up, and it shows NBA fans every single year. Like, we get reminded every year, you can't build a super team like the Suns did and expect to win. You need depth. You need a team chemistry. You need good coaching, players that actually buy into the system. Alpha, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here as we close out the show. You are one of the sharpest guys on the internet, on Twitter, on Instagram. What is your favorite bet in the second round here, right? We already talked about 2 series, but potentially we have an OKC, the winner of Dallas Clippers, and then we have the game 7 coming up, but the winner of that's going to face Boston. So what's your favorite bet in second round?
My favorite bet is exactly what Zach said earlier. I think the Knicks are going to win this in 5 over the Pacers, and there's definitely exact value on picking that exact score. Give me 1 second here so I can get you guys the current line for that. But yeah, like I said earlier, I do think the Knicks are going to be the much better team here. They are much deeper. If Tibbs can control those rotations, play a couple more guys, a few more minutes, I definitely think that the Knicks are going to take this in 5. Let me see here.
Plus 310.
Plus 310. Thank you very much. So, yeah, there's definitely value there. I know Zach said it earlier. He sees the series going 5. Exactly how I see it. A gentleman's sweep.
All right, Zach, I'll go to you next. What's your favorite bet of the second round?
Favorite bet of the second round? I mean, that might be it. Honestly, I don't mean to steal that. Right now, I mean, we're still waiting on the other 2 games. I think there's going to be some value. Dallas over OKC. I don't know. You guys probably would have a better prediction of that line. But, I mean, the Clippers aren't done yet. There's a good chance they could come back and win this thing, but I'm leaning Dallas pretty heavily right now. And if whoever comes out, I think they take down OKC. I feel it. I mean, definitely Dallas. LAC maybe not so much, but I like Dallas. I mean, I think those odds should be pretty good.
Chris, same question.
All right, I'm gonna go with the Hail Mary here because when you asked me this question before the playoffs started, I said to parlay Knicks to win their series 4-2 and the Timberwolves to win their series 4-1. And that was so damn close to being one hell of a moonshot. So I'm gonna try to replicate the close success and
Most don't win any money, bro.
one up myself and win money this time. I want to go with the parlay of the Denver Nuggets 4-2 and the New York Knicks 4-1. It's
Wow,
plus.
we have three guys. We have three guys betting the Knicks in 5. That's insane.
That's
What a time. What a time.
That's a 2-pick parlay for plus 2,300. Now, if you do 4-2 for the Knicks, 4-2 in both series, it's plus 3,000. I would recommend a sprinkle on both because you know this Knicks team is exhausted. You know this Knicks team is bruised and battered, like we said earlier. Do they give
Talking like that, leaving the
Nick
door
Clark-
open.
Ah,
Yeah, don't do that.
I never said they'd lose the series. I said maybe they'd only win in 6. But they're going to beat the Pacers. They're tougher, they're grittier, and in the NBA playoffs, that storybook stuff is very real, right? Like it's not just a storybook. It's not, oh yeah, this other team has the best player, but they're so tough that they'll outdog them. Like you will get outdogged in the playoffs by Tibbs and the New York Knicks. You should have heard the Philly radio host. I forget who exactly it was. He lost his mind. He was saying
Everyone ever, every Philly host ever.
Yes, but he was saying like we couldn't beat a 6-foot guard and a bunch of second-round picks. We couldn't beat Tibbs in the '90s Knicks. We're cooked. The Sixers fans are turning on Daryl Morey because of this series.
They should.
I think Burks will get a chance to prove himself worthy of a rotation spot. That's my final take for Alpha, so that he goes.
My favorite bet, because I think there's going to be a upset in round 2, whether that's Dallas, whether that's the Pacers. We don't think Boston's going to get upset, but I think the upset is going to be Minnesota. Everybody is riding high on Denver because they are the champions, but they haven't played the same this year. They're also not as healthy as last year. They don't have the same depth. Christian Brown is not looking the same. Peyton Watson is not looking the same. So those guys that stepped up last year are not stepping up so far, right? It's only been one round. They still are the champs. They still do have the best player in the NBA, arguably the best 5 in the NBA. But this is a different team that they're facing when it comes to Minnesota. You don't have someone that's going to miss a rotation like D'Angelo Russell. You don't have someone that's going to miss a block out like LeBron James, right? So I like Minnesota here. I know you guys said there's no value in plus 170. I like it, man. I think Minnesota is going to, I wouldn't even say shock the world. They're the higher seed here. So I expect them to win. And they have home advantage, and they have Game 7 at home. So
Plus
give me the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Plus 280 if you parlay them with the Knicks to win their series, just regardless of how many games.
I like that.
Here's a player prop for you: Jamal Murray under points.
Now, why is that?
Minnesota's perimeter defense is elite, and I like that a lot. Jaden is awesome. I think he's very, very underrated. Not only as a like a tough guy, hustle guy, but he's like very talented in my opinion, and he could play multiple positions. Chris, I'll let you finish us out and give shouts out to our awesome partner at Beat the Book.
Yeah, of course, man. We got to thank Ball is Life as always for sponsoring. But these live shows, the reason they happen, the reason All Things NBA has been taken live, the reason you get just I don't want to say like nuggets because then it would be like pun intended, whatever. But the reason you get golden nuggets from guests like Alpha is because of Beat the Book. So thank you so much to Beat the Book. And really, like, I wish I could not sound like I am so promotional, but the reason I do is because it's actually awesome. The spaces before the Knicks game, so many gems were given out. I think if you take all the Beat the Book community cappers, I think we went 6-3, and that one of the 6 was my plus 550 play. Like it's just a great community. It's people who bring their different angles to the table. you can go on Beat the Book. And I think this is like the best thing about it is you don't have to tail every bet you see. You don't have to fade every bet. Like you can just see what people are thinking and then come up with your own reads. Beat the Book has expert picks they give out themselves. The app is so easy to use. Today, their lock of the day, shocker, it won under 201 in Cavs Magic. Like simple plays, right? Like Ben, one of the guys who runs Beat the Book. Philly lets down everyone in classic Philly fashion. Take Knicks money line. That was a win. The picks are really good, and it's not because they're trying to give you these crazy plus 24,000, like Jamal Murray to wear pink sneakers and have 8 assists, like upside parlays, right? Like they are just trying to beat the books. And the way you do that is not with parlays, it's with straights. The way you do that is by reading the analytics, trying to be like Albert and being smart about it. And that's the community that you can join on Beat the Book. Go follow us at All Things NBA. It's $5 for the entire NBA playoffs for our premium picks here on the All Things NBA show. If you tune into these shows live, you get a sense of what those picks are going to be. But when they are officially logged, it's literally just $5 for the picks for the entire playoffs. It's a steal of a deal, and it's all possible because of Beat the Book. So big shout out to Beat the Book. I'll show the app icon for the one time. And that is it for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in.
I do want to do the biggest thank you for Alpha. For those who don't know, just a personal anecdote here. I've known Alpha now for like 5 or 6 years. We started this thing together way back when during COVID, and so much has happened, and we've moved on from we've stepped up so much. We've grown so much, and it's because we like to support each other. We stay positive. So I do want to let Alpha close the show out. Let us know where to find you, anything you want to plug, Alpha, because we are very appreciative that you're on tonight.
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is that I want to thank you guys for having me on. It's been an absolute blast getting to chop it up with you guys. AC, I've known you forever. You're a great friend of mine. We'll be friends forever, and this show is fantastic. If you guys want to find more of me, you can find me on Twitter at AlphaDogBets, on Instagram at AlphaDogBets, on TikTok at AlphaDogBets. You guys, and yet again, guys, thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Thank you, man. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next week.